فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. صدق الله العظيم. Which means, O you people, worship your Lord and Sustainer, who has created you and those who lived before you, so that you might remain conscious of him, who has made the earth a resting place for you, and the sky a canopy, and has sent down water from the sky, and thereby brought forth fruits for your sustenance. Then set not up rivals to Allah when you know the truth. Ustad starts with introduction. You should know that it is worship that instills the tenets of belief in the believers, making them a very part of their character. You should know that it is worship that instills the tenets of belief in the believers, making them a very part of their character. For if matters pertaining to the conscience and reason are not nurtured and strengthened by worship, for if matters pertaining to the conscience and reason are not nurtured and strengthened by worship, which consists of carrying out Allah's commands and abstaining from his prohibitions, they remain ineffectual and weak. The present state of the Islamic world testifies to this. I would like to repeat this first paragraph again. You should know that it is worship that instills the tenets of belief. What is tenets of belief? آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله وباليوم الآخر وبالقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى. Those believe in Allah, believe in hereafter, believe in destiny, believe in prophets. Those, if we want those tenets of belief to be part of our character, this is only possible by worship. For if matters pertaining to the conscience and reason, so why conscience and reason? Iman is the result of yaqeen, of conscience and reason, or submission with conscience and reason. So this cannot be nurtured and strengthened if there is no worship. Conscience and reason that is bound to Iman is nurtured and strengthened by worship, which consists of carrying out. So what is worship? Worship is carrying out Allah's commands and abstaining from his prohibitions. Positive worship and negative worship. They remain ineffectual and weak. What remains ineffectual and weak? Our conscience and reason. That is the cradle of Iman. That is the plateau of Iman. The present state of Islamic world testifies to this. So meaning, if there is a weakness in the state of there is a weakness in the state of the Islamic world, is because there's a weakness of understanding of the importance of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first part of it. Second, know too that worship is the cause of happiness in this world and the next, and is a means of ordering life here and there, and a cause of attainment and perfection, both individual and collective. It is an exalted, esteemed relation between creator and bondsman. Subhanallah, Ustad Bedizaman will explain this one with 7 reasons. Worship, number 1, is the cause of happiness in this world and the next. It's clear, right? Worship is the cause of happiness in this world and the next. You remember from the Asai Musa, the 8th matter, it talks about the benefits of believing hereafter in this world. And Ustad Bedizaman says, no need to discuss about the benefits of believing hereafter in hereafter. That will result eternal happiness. That will result eternal happiness in paradise, inshallah ta'ala, if you believe in hereafter. But also he discusses about in 8 in eighth matter, he discusses about, he make it very clear for us that believing hereafter is a vital cure for our sicknesses. It's a vital medicine for our sicknesses in this age, in our social life, in our family life, in our personal life, in our political life. So it's really a means of happiness. Worship is the cause of happiness in this world and the next. Yani, salat is the same, Psalm is the same. It has so many benefits for this world and also for hereafter. And is a means of ordering life here and there, and a cause of attainment and perfection. Maybe this one is more on spiritual attainment and perfection. And both also individual and attainment and perfection, both individual and collective. It is an exalted, esteemed relation between Creator and the creation and us. The relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between Creator and us, is creativity. And because Allah Azza wa Jalla created us, He wants from us something. That's why He says, Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum. Because I have created you. That is the first and foremost reason of, that's the first and foremost reason of why we are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are several reasons. Worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity in this world, which is the tillage of the hereafter. This is hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ad-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. This world is the tillage of the hereafter. The importance of the world before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is because of worship, is because of prayer. I remember the 20th letter, just a summary of it. Everyone from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam until us and until Qiyamah, every one of us, the greatest question that we should ask to ourselves is this one. Why have we created? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us? What am I doing on earth? What is the reason of my creation? What am I doing on earth? Where am I going? Why I have these eyes, this intellect, heart, soul, spirit? Why all those inner and outer faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in me? Where am I going to use all this spiritual and material power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on me? So these are the questions that every man with sound intellect should ask to himself. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one actually who could answer these questions. Sometimes we say, I am created to be a singer. I am created to be a doctor. I'm created to be a teacher. And sometimes we do tell this one, if I am gonna come back to this world one more time, I would still love to be a soldier. I would still love to be a teacher. I would still love to marry you. As if we come to this world to marry, as if we come to this world to become a doctor, to become a teacher. You know, we hear this one from famous people, especially, many times. But actually, the question is, it's not from my point of view, what am I doing on earth? But actually, from the point of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who made us. What is His point by making me? Maybe the question should be changed, and we have to ask, the one who made me, what's his main purpose? For me to become a 40 years of a professional doctor, for me to become all those things in the world around me, the sun, the moon, the wind, water, air, all those foods, family, everything that makes me happy, everything that makes me sad, all those things is because of my 20, 30 years of life. Why? What He really wants, not from my point of view. Why? What? Not from what I see myself, but since my hands, my body, my spirit is created by Him, I have to ask, what do you want from me? Why are you doing this to me? Why all those things that you are creating before me? Why are you creating my life? And even before I came to this world, I came to this life, you prepare everything necessary for my life. What do you want from me? This has to be the question. And the answer should come not again from our family, not again from our friends and colleagues, but it should come from the one who created. And the one who created is saying that I have created you for worship. Then what is this worship? So when we look at the 20th letter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that everything in the universe, if we look at with the eye of wisdom, has a purpose. Everything in the universe. There is no single thing, there is no minutest thing, there is no an atom that has been created for nothing, or that has been created for as a waste. There is nothing in the universe. Even when you look at your own room, now I'm looking at this, my own room, it is 30 square meter. In this 30 square meter, when I look at the heater, to the sofa, everything that I see from anything that is in my room, it has a purpose. If everything in this room, if this computer, if this cell phone, if this sofa, if this mirror has a purpose, how can I remain without purpose? How can I be made for nothing? Of course, there has to be a reason. So, and that is, yeah, mashallah. Ustad Bezaman says, man has been created to, number one, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and two other things, fear and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iman billah, ma'rifatullah, muhabbatullah, makhafatullah. Four things, that is the main reason why we have been created. Muhabbatul iman billah, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He wants us to believe in Him, not as we wish. That's why we don't say that we are the sons and daughters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because this is our own desire. But again, the question is, what is His desire? How He wants us to see Him. And He wants us to see Him as our sustainer, as our Lord, as our creator, as our provider, Hakim mutlaq, Qadir mutlaq, Alim mutlaq, Allah Azza wa Jalla, with His 99 names and all those attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants us to recognize Him that way. And He wants us to know that we are His slave and we are under His command. There is nothing can come to existence without His wish, will, and command. So we turn back to those purposes. So there are four purposes. One is Iman billah. Then second is Muhabbatullah, Ma'rifatullah, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one thing. To know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is another thing. In order to, there is no limit for the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no limit that we will, you remember how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded to him during Miraj. He said, ما عرفناك حق معرفتك يا معروف. I was not able to recognize you as you are worthy to be recognized, as how you are worthy to be recognized. But the more, inshallah, the more we read Risale Nur, the more we read this kind of tafsirs, inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will increase our knowledge of Him. The second is the Ma'rifatullah. And the third one is Muhabbatullah. The more we believe in Him, the more we have knowledge of Him, the result will be Muhabbatullah and Makhafatullah, love and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The manifestation of these four things is in our daily life is our worship. The manifestation of Muhabbatullah, Makhafatullah, Ma'rifatullah, Iman billah is our worship. And this worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity in this world, which is the tillage of the hereafter. Iman billah, as Allah Azza wa Jal wants us. Ma'rifatullah, and for Ma'rifatullah, there are also four things that will lead us to Ma'rifatullah. Number one is the book of universe. Number one is the book of universe. I explained this like when I was in Philippines. I always tell this one to my students. Yani, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, for example, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, 114 times in the Quran. He introduced himself as Rahman and Rahim, as Allah, as Rahman, as Rahim. But how do we know that he is Rahman, he is Rahim? Not only from the revelation that he sent down to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not through Torah, not through Bible, not through Quran, but we know that he is Rahman and Rahim through his acts in universe. And that's why he says that I am Rahman and Rahim, and you can see in my action how compassionate I am, how merciful I am, how generous I am through the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe. Af'alullah and sunnatullah. Yes. So Ma'rifatullah first is the book of universe. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla invite us to read the signs in the universe. You remember the first verse in the cave when Jibril alayhi salam came to Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Iqra. Rasulullah alayhi salam said, I don't know how to read. And Jibril alayhi salam said, Iqra. I don't know how to read. Iqra. At the middle of the night, maybe 3 a.m., 2 a.m., all of a sudden someone appears that you never ever seen before, and he is keep on telling you, read. But was there any book in the hand of Jibril alayhi salam? There was no book in the hand of Jibril alayhi salam. There was no Quran. So definitely he does not want him to read something actually. There was no written things in the hand of Jibril alayhi salam, if there was a hand. So what actually wants Jibril from him to read is not something written, something else that he wants Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam to do. And what is that? He said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, that khalaq. You read whatever is created. You read in the name of Allah who has created. Meaning, if you want to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, read the creation. Jibril alayhi salam is changing the understanding of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this first revelation. You read, you try to understand, you recite the things that is going on around you. When you see a stone, when you see a rock, when you see a river, when you see a leaf, when you see a tree, whatever you see around you, that is letters from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Read it. Not the Quran Azim Shan. Quran has been revealed to Rasulullah in 23 years. This is one of the mistakes that we do. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Iqra, the first thing that he wants us to read is the book of universe. Is the book of universe that he shows his magnificent power. He shows his absolute power, absolute justice, absolute knowledge, absolute creativity in universe. So if without reading the book of universe, wallahi al-adim, our iman cannot be reached in iman ta'am. It cannot reach iman mukammalan, takmilan. Absolute iman is possible only if we read the book of universe, if we try to see the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the manifestations of his names and attributes from the minutest things up to the solar system. And the second one is, yes, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has an attribute of kalam, right? He has a speech, absolute speech. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will talk to the people. That's why he sent down revelations, and his last revelations is, what is that? Is the Quran Azim Shan. All the books that is revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the surah that's revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with one reason actually. Of course, all of them has 4 reasons, but the biggest one is, the greatest one is, the first one is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ma'rifatullah. To know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Quran is the same. The 4 reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran is to teach that Rasulullah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one and exists, and there is hereafter, and there are prophets, and we should act justly on earth. And the last one is the worship. We call this one maqasidul arba'a, the four aims of the Quran, to teach us that Allah is one and He exists, that there is hereafter, that we will be questioned by every amal that we have done on earth. And the third one is the nubuwwah, with the prophethood and the stories of the prophets. But the fourth one is justice and adala and ibadah, justice and worship. The third one that teaches us about ma'rifah, the third one that teaches us about ma'rifah is the prophets. Sayyidina Rasulullah and all the prophets also teaches us the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, divine oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, divine existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hereafter, the day of judgment, worship, and of course the justice. All the prophets, and including Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And the fourth one is our own being, our own nafs. من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه. Whoever knows himself knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those worship has been taught to us by the prophets, and particularly Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a perfect level. Islam is the perfection. Yes, there was worship during the time of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, but it was not in a perfect form. Yes, there was zakat, but it was perfected by Islam. Yes, there was Sawm, but it was perfected by Islam. What does it mean perfected? Perfected means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered with Islam in a way of kamal, yani it reached to the utmost maturity. The best form of worship from the time of Adam alayhi salam until Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam is perfected by the way that Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam taught us, the perfection of worship. So, and it is formalized, it is standardized by Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Sawm, zakat, salah, all those things, the way that we worship with our body, reflection, tafakkur, all those things reach to the peak level by Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay, so and then the third one is muhabbatullah and makhafatullah. These two things is actually bound to worship. If we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we will worship Him. If we fear Him, then we will worship Him. Because this is the first command of Allah Azza wa Jalla from us. There are several reasons worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity in this world, which is the till age of the hereafter. So since we have created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for worship, all the other reasons are secondary reasons. Sometimes I was again asking, it's a very simple thing, but I was asking to my students, I was telling them that if you went out from this university and on the street you met your friend and he asked you, I haven't seen you in a while, what are you doing? So I'm studying in this college. Very good. So what are you studying? Why are you studying? Why are you going to this college? I'm going to that college because there's a very good canteen. They made a very good shawarma. Of course, the person will tell you, are you crazy? You are going to the college just to go enter to that canteen and eat shawarma? But definitely everyone in that university goes to shawarma store and eats during lunchtime. But that is not why they are there. That is secondary matter. That is not even a secondary matter. But because we are human, but because we will get hungry, that's why those who built the school, they also made the canteen inside it. But no one goes to school for canteen. This world is the canteen, is the universe, is the college. In this universe, in this school of universe, there is also canteen. There is also sports center. There is also a place for you to play basketball and football and soccer or whatever. But that is not the reason why we go to the school. We go to the school. If I am studying engineering, I want to be an engineer. That's why I go to the school. Actually, I don't go to school just to become an engineer. That's also another thing. Because I want to become an engineer in order to sustain my life. Get married, have a house, send my children to the school. And for me to earn that sustenance, you know, so universe is the same. So we have sent to this universe not to eat, not to drink, not to go out, not to make friends. These are all secondary matters. Not to become engineer, not to become doctors, not to become teachers, not to become rich. All those things are secondary matters. But primary matters of the creation of the universe is man. And the creation of man is something should be bigger than the universe itself. Universe is the greatest investment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the greatest investor. Allah Azza wa Jalla invested to this universe, and the result is the life. If we look at the universe as a factory, the result of this factory is the life. The expectation from the result should be bigger than the factory itself. If I spend $1 million for this factory and the result is life, then my expectation from this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, for example, Riza and the universe. I can say that this universe has been created for me. If this universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spent $1 million for this universe, and then I have Riza, and Riza has to have a value. This life has to have a value more than bigger than this investment. And what is that? This life has to give a result of eternity, and that is possible only by ma'rifatullah, muhabbatullah, makhafatullah, ibadatullah, ibadah, and iman billah. So that this investment will become a wise investment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise. So why we come to this world is not because of all those secondary matters, but because of to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to worship Him. One, and this is perfected by Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَوْلَاكَ لَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْأَفْلَاقَ. If not because of you, O Muhammad, I would not create the universe. Why? Because this investment of the universe made, because of the life of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Muhammad became, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, became such a jewel, such a result, such an outcome from this universe that is higher and bigger and greater and more valuable than this entire universe. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look at to the universe and look what Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam did, he said, لَوْلَاكَ لَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْأَفْلَاقَ. Because of you, because the result is you. If not because of you, I would not create this universe. Sometimes some people say that this hadith is weak, but it is true. It is true because Allah Azza wa Jalla created the universe for this result. The result is not my worship, is not your worship. It is the worship of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. It's not your iman, my iman, but the iman of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. It is not the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in my heart and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart, but muhabbatullah that in the heart of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. There are several reasons worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity. There are several reasons worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity in this world, which is the till age of the hereafter. If we have still time, I would like to read even just some of them. Why the worship is the cause of happiness. Do we still have time?
We have
Abi,
20,
of course we. Yeah, go on.
we have 20 minutes. Riza.
Okay.
Please
yeah,
continue,
inshallah.
Abi.
So there are several reasons worship is the cause of happiness and prosperity in this world, which is the tillage of the hereafter. Firstly, man has been created with a strange, subtle nature distinguishing him from all other living beings. Man has been created with a strange, subtle nature distinguishing him from all other living beings and making him an exception to them. By virtue of this, there have arisen in him the desire to choose and the wish for the most beautiful things and for fine decoration and a natural desire to have a livelihood and position befitting humanity. For his food, dress, and accommodation, the need for which arises due to the above-mentioned desires, to be prepared proficiently, man has need of multiple arts and crafts. But he is incapable of practicing all of these on his own. He needs, therefore, to mix with his fellow men and to cooperate with them, and for all of them to assist each other and exchange the fruits of their labor. This Ustad Bezaman is like a sociologist. Huh? However, so as to allow man's progress by means of the mainspring of the will, the all-wise maker placed no innate limits on the three human powers of appetite, anger, and intellect, as with the animals and their limited powers, tyranny and aggression have arisen. And since no limit has been placed on them, what is that? No limit has been placed on the three subtle faculties of human powers of appetite, anger, and intellect. And so, since no limit has been placed on them, the powers tend to aggression, and the human community is in need of justice when exchanging the fruits of its labor. But because the intellects of single members of society are incapable of comprehending justice, the human race as a whole needs a general or universal intellect to establish justice from which all may benefit. And that intellect is the universal law, and that law is the Sharia. Then, in order to preserve the effectiveness of the Sharia and its enforcement, a lawmaker is necessary. Someone to lay claim to it and promulgate it, and an authority, and that is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How Ustad Bediüzzaman take from the nature of man, then to the nature of social life, then to the nature of universe, then again back to the nature of man having a limitless power of anger, of intellect, and of aggression. And then Ustad Bediüzzaman says, we as a social being, we have to interact with other people in order to reach our needs. Then there has to be a law, and that law has to be a universal law, and that universal law is the Sharia, and the practitioner of that Sharia is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then, in order to perpetuate his outward and inward domination over people's minds and hearts, the Prophet needs to be eminently superior both physically and spiritually and morally, and in conduct and appearance, and by nature and in character. He is in need too of proof of the strength of his relations with the Lord of all sovereignty, the master of the world, and such a proof is his miracles. Then, in order to secure obedience to its commands and avoidance of its prohibitions, he is in need of perpetuating the idea of the Maker's grandeur, the master of all sovereignty, and that is possible through the manifestation of the tenets of belief. Then, in order to perpetuate this idea and fix the tenets of belief firmly in their minds, he needs a constantly repeated reminder and renewed act, and that reminder is nothing but worship. Yani, fa subhanallah, how is it is really fa subhanallah, yani, how Ustad Bediüzzaman, Allahu Akbar, explains this. subtle point in I don't know how to say it, in a very miraculous way. Subhanallah. He is really master. Yani Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, he is the practitioner of this Sharia. He has to be superior both physically and mentally and spiritually and in his nature and in his character. Yes, all those things is right. And he needs to prove to the people, in order to let them follow the Sharia, he has to prove that he has a very strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he needs these miracles. Then in order to secure the obedience and obedience to it, to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has to manifest the tenets of belief. Then in order to manifest the tenets of belief firmly to the minds and hearts of the followers, he needs a constant reminder and renewed act. And that is nothing but worship, meaning our worship, our following the practice of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our sawm, our salah, our renewal of faith is possible through worship. And worship means every time that we have an act of worship, be it a negative or positive kind of worship, if we do it with the intention of worship, then it is a repeated reminder and a renewed act between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, the purpose of worship is to turn minds towards the all-wise maker. The purpose of worship is to turn minds towards the all-wise maker. And this turning towards induces obedience and submission. And this includes the worshippers under the perfect order in the universe and binds them to it. To follow this order leads to the realization of the mystery of the wisdom, and the wisdom is testified to by the perfect art in the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to worship because he wants us, he wants our mind, our heart, our spirit to turn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is possible with obedience and submission. And this obedience and submission through worship becomes under perfect order. During the Sawm, right? I remember during the Iftar. Ustad Bezaman says it's like obedient army. The Muslim world is like an obedient army, waiting the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fasting is teaching us that we have to wait in everything we do, in everything, either whether we are aware of it or not. But actually our actions, whatever we do is bound by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is possible through the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During the fasting in Ramadan, one of the wisdom is teaching us this, right? That there is water, I have money, but I cannot buy it and I cannot drink it, even if I have money, even if I have power, even if I have will and wish, desire, everything is ready for me to drink that water, but I cannot because I am fasting. The only thing that avoid my hand extending to that water is because of the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then through this I understand actually everything is like that. Not only in Ramadan, everything, halal, haram, everything is under the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot act. And this worship, like fasting, all kind of worship teaches us this wisdom. That's why the purpose of worship is turning our mind to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will make our heart comfortable. Thirdly, man resembles a pole to the top of which are joined electric cables, for attached to his head are the tips of all the laws of creation. The natural laws extend to him, and the rays of the divine laws and principles in the universe are reflected and centered on him. So man has to complete them and adhere to them and cling unto them to facilitate the general current lest his foot slips and he falls and is crushed under the wheels of the machinery turning in the levels of the world. And this is achieved through worship, which consists of conforming to the commands and prohibitions. I would like to read the 8 of them, so I will read a little bit faster. Fourthly, by complying with the commands and prohibitions, numerous connections are formed. By complying with the commands and prohibitions, numerous connections are formed. For a person with the many levels of society, and the individual becomes like a species. For many of the commands, especially those that touch on the marks of Islam and the general good, resemble threads to which are tied people's honor and through which their rights are set in order. If it were not for them, all those rights and duties would be torn up and scattered to the wind. You know, respect to the mothers and fathers, respect to the friends, helping to the sick people, all those things. If it is not made with the intention of worship, then with the end of our life, everything will gone to nothingness. Fifthly, the Muslim has firm relations with all other Muslims, and there are strong bonds between them. By reason of the tenets of belief and the Muslims' Islamic traits, these relations give rise to unshakable brotherhood and true love. And it is worship that makes manifest the tenets of belief and renders them effective and roots them firmly in the psyche. Now, this is understandable, right? Because of our zakat, for example, it becomes a breach between the people of Islam. Because of the Hajj, people comes together and it's like a big congregation of the Muslims. And many other worship makes strong bonds between the Muslims. How worship is the cause of personal attainment and perfection? The question, how worship is the cause of personal attainment and perfection? Consider this. Together with being physically small, weak, and powerless, and being one of the animals, man bears within him an exalted spirit and has vast potentiality, unrestricted desires, infinite hopes, uncountable ideas, and unlimited powers. And he has a nature so strange, he is as though an index of all the species and all the worlds. As for worship, it expands his spirit and raises his value. It causes his abilities to unfold and develop, allowing him to become worthy of eternal happiness. Worship. No? Worship is also a means of rectifying and purifying his inclinations and of realizing his hopes and making them fruitful, and of marshalling his ideas and setting them in order, and also of reining in and limiting his 3 powers of appetite, anger, and intellect. Worship also removes the rust of nature from his members, physical and spiritual, each of which, when transparent, is like a window onto his private world and that of humankind. Also, when performed with both conscience and mind and heart and body, worship raises man to the dignity of which he is worthy and to his appointed perfection. It is a subtle, elevated relation, an illustrious, lofty connection between the bondsman and the one worshipped. This relation constitutes the utmost degree of human perfection. Sincerity in worship is this. Okay, until now, it talks about how the worship is the cause of personal attainment and perfection. Now it talks about how worship itself can reach to the level of perfection. So worship makes us this and that, brings us to the human perfection. But how worship can be perfected? Sincerity, al-ikhlas, in worship is this. The ruh, the spirit, the life of worship lies depends on the level of sincerity. Sincerity. To do things only because it is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sincerity in worship is this, that is performed only because it is commanded. Although it comprises numerous instances of wisdom and benefits, each of these may be reason illa for performing worship, but sincerity makes it imperative that the true reason be the command to perform it. If the wisdom or benefit is made the reason, the worship is null and void. But if it merely encourages the person to perform the worship, it is permissible. So this is the perfection of the worship, sincerity. Easy to say, hard to act on it, with it. Al-Ikhlas. One time they asked to Khulusabi, the hero of Ikhlas, they said, Khulusabi, what is Ikhlas? He said, Ikhlas, içinde halk olmayandır. Candan abi, help me. Ahmet abi. İçinde halk olmayandır. İhlas nedir? İçinde halk olmayandır. Yani ihlas is something
that createdness is not part of.
Yes, whatever created abi is not part of it. Meaning, yani Jannah is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jahannam is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hellfire, paradise, worldly attainment, people's, fame or applause of people, nothing. And this is not only with the worship, and all our act, in our mind and in our heart and in our intention, there is only one, Allah Azza wa Jalla. Why companions of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam has reached to the level of that perfection that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala congratulate them, is because of this ikhlas. In the 27th word, when Ustad Bediüzzaman discussed about the values of the companions, he said this because they always ask this question before they do anything. Is Allah pleased with this? If I do this one, Allah is gonna be pleased or not? So they never ask, if I do this one, and this person will be pleased or not? My mother will be pleased or not? My father will be pleased or not? My children will be pleased or not? My society will be pleased or not? If I do this one, will I be saved from the hellfire? If I do this one, will I go to the paradise? So there is no any hidden agenda. It's only, and it's really very hard to reach this. But we are talking about the perfection of it, as much as possible to get closer to that level. But maybe this may seem to be impossible, but we have to be on that way. So even 60%, 70% of our acts, if it is made with this beautiful intention, if this is actually a key. You remember there are so many stories in Siyar al-Nabi, in the book of Hadith. Says, for example, talks about a woman which is who is very bad, and this woman, he does everything bad, right? He's fornication and everything. Then this woman sees a cat almost dying. He take off her shoes, and get a water, and give that cat water. And the Rasulullah and Hadith continues, says that Allah Azza wa Jalla accept him among those who has been pleased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who enters the paradise. When we look at this action, she has no worship. She has nothing. There is nothing good in her, but one action of sincerity. Subhanallah. This gives an example. During that situation, she did this just because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at how much we worship, how much we we wake up in the middle of the night, and how much we read Jawshan, Risale, how much we try to reach people and tell them about Islam. These are all something, but Allah Azza wa Jalla indeed looks at one thing. Among all those actions every second of our life, which one is for me? Which one is done purely for me? That's it. Now we are gathered today, you know, and for what? If it is for me to show that I know something, I remember Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, his neighbor was a Jew, and this Jew, a Jewish man, and one day he knocked his door. Abu Hanifa was living in a 2-story building. From the 2nd floor, he came down, he opened the door, and the Jew said, I have one question for you. Abu Hanifa said, yes, please. Come inside. He said, no need. I will just ask my question and I will go. And Abu Hanifa said, please, go on. The Jew said, Wallahi, I forgot now. He said, okay. Then he left. Abu Hanifa went upstairs. He knocked the door again. Imam Azam came down. He opened the door. He said, I have one question for you. Yes, what is it? He said, I forgot. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times. Abu Hanifa went up, come down, went up, come down. On the 10th, he opened the door, and the Jew said, I have a question for you, but when you opened the door, I forgot. Imam Azam said, my neighbor, Wallahi, even you knock this door, not 10 times, 100 times, it's okay for me. I can go up and go down. No problem with me. But I just pity you. You are just waiting outside, and just try to keep it in your mind and ask your question. He just wanted to, make Imam Azam get angry. But because of this response, he said, oh, okay, I just remembered now. What is it? I just want to ask which one is more valuable, the tail of my donkey or your beard, the hair on your beard. Which one is more valuable? The hair on the tail of my donkey or the one hair of your beard? Imam Azam said, my dear neighbor, why have you forgot this question? It was so simple. If this beard of mine is for the people to say that, MashaAllah, Imam Azam is a great alim. MashaAllah, he is a knowledgeable person. He's a very wise man. In order people to see me as someone, if I am, lengthening my beard for this reason, Wallahi, the tail, one hair in the tail of your, on the tail of your donkey is more valuable than my entire being. Not from the beard, but my entire being. Your donkey is more valuable. But this one is for the sake of, if this beard of mine is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this beard is equivalent to the universe. At this level of ikhlas, this level of sincerity, if it is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he said this word, most probably, this level of, the level of ikhlas, of the sincerity of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa melted the heart of this person. From that very moment, this Jew said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa nashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. We have so many stories of those people who became Muslim because of act of sincerity. Act of sincerity. You remember Imam Ali radiallahu anh, Sayyidina Imam Ali radiallahu anh, in the Battle of Uhud, right? When he was almost killing the kuffar, he spit on his face, and Imam Ali turned his back. He ran after him. He said, what are you doing? Why didn't you kill me? I was going to kill you because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you spit on my face. Now I'm going to kill you for my sake. So he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa nashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. The best way of tabligh is actually teaches us that it is ikhlas. It is ikhlas. It's not the way how eloquent we are. It is not how beautiful we talk. It is not how beautiful we act. Actually, it is that it is a mystery. You know, Yunus Emre says, Ikhlas is something between a mystery between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and man. Therefore, even the angels are not aware of it. The angels are not aware of it. The angels only aware of our actions. But ikhlas is the mystery between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and us. So the perfection of worship is, we try to remember, we try to force ourselves that, Ya Allah Azza wa Jalla, I wake up this tahajjud, I wake up this sahur, I wake up this fajr, I am gonna pray this zuhur. Please let me only do it for you. Let me pray, let me worship only for your sake. Purify my heart. We have to pray for ikhlas actually. We have to force ourselves, because some people are mukhlas. They are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Since they are protected, they act mostly, maybe 90%, 99%, they act sincerely. But when it comes to the general people like us, because some ikhlas is hali, some is kasbi. Our ikhlas is kasbi. We are not naturally mukhlis people. I'm talking about myself. I am not naturally mukhlis people, so I have to force myself. I have to try something. I have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me ikhlas. If to tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah Azza wa Jalla, I am weak. My heart can incline to anything, anytime. Inclined to fame, inclined to be known, inclined to applause, inclined to, you know, anything. It can go anywhere, but keep my heart in sincerity. Let me pray, let me worship to you with a sincere heart.
Allah razı olsun abi ya.
Abi, last paragraph, it's finishing. Last paragraph. When those addressed hear the words, "O you people worship," they ask, through the tongue of disposition, why and for what reason? What is the wisdom in it? Why should we? And what for? You learned the wisdom in the introduction above. Concerning the reason, illa, the Quran replies with proof of the Maker and his unity with the words, your Lord and Sustainer who created you. Then with the verse, if you are in doubt about what we have revealed, it proves prophethood. Evet abi. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك عليم حكيم.